19 million apartments. One algorithm. Your rent went up and you never knew why. Did a secret algorithm decide what you pay? Did one Texas software company secretly fix rent for millions of Americans? It started with a ProPublica investigation. One journalist, one algorithm, one smoking gun that changed everything. A RealPage executive bragged on stage, rents up 14.5%. I think it's driving it, he said, out loud. 31,000 landlords, one software, 90% followed every single daily price recommendation without question. In one Seattle neighborhood, 70% of all apartments ran the exact same pricing code simultaneously. This wasn't the free market working. This was a cartel running silently, directly on your lease. To understand what really happened here, you need to understand how rent used to work across America. A landlord looked at vacancy rates, checked what the neighbors were charging, and then made a call. Competition kept prices honest. If one building charged too much, renters simply walked next door instead. That system wasn't perfect, but it was a real market. Landlords competed, and renters had actual choices. Then a Texas company called RealPage decided that all of that messy competition was inefficient, bad for business. RealPage built a product called YieldStar, an algorithm that told landlords exactly what to charge every single day. The pitch was seductive, stop guessing. Let the data decide. Your building will consistently outperform the market. And the data was extraordinary. RealPage had access to private lease information from 13 million units nationwide. Your lease, your neighbor's lease, every competing building on your block, all quietly feeding the same central machine. By 2022, RealPage clients controlled nearly 40% of all rental units across the entire United States. Greystar alone, America's largest property manager, ran YieldStar on over 150,000 apartments nationally. On paper, it looked like smart innovation, but under the hood, it was something else entirely, something illegal. Here's the problem. RealPage wasn't just analyzing public data. It was collecting and sharing private competitor data. Your landlord fed their private lease numbers into the system. So did every competing landlord on your block. The algorithm pooled all of it, processed it overnight, then told every single landlord what to charge simultaneously. That's not a market. That's coordination. And under the Sherman Antitrust Act, coordination between competitors is flatly illegal. Federal prosecutors called it a hub and spoke conspiracy. RealPage was the hub. Your landlords were the spokes. You were the target. The software even recommended keeping units deliberately vacant rather than lowering the price. Empty apartments over affordable ones. Think about that carefully. A landlord was told, leave it empty, charge more. The algorithm said so. So they did. In Phoenix and Tucson, federal prosecutors found rents rose at least 30% directly because of this conspiracy. Senators Warren, Sanders, Smith, and Markey formally wrote to the DOJ. The answers they got back were alarming. RealPage confirmed YieldStar was most heavily concentrated in the cities where rents spiked the absolute fastest. Not a coincidence. ProPublica found one building near Amazon's Seattle headquarters where rent had climbed 42% since 2012 alone. The building right next door without the algorithm rose just 33%. Same city, same market, 9% gap. Multiply that 9% gap across 19 million apartments across a full decade, and the number becomes staggering. In 2022, the DOJ opened a civil investigation. Then in 2024, a criminal probe was launched, specifically for price fixing. The criminal probe was later closed without charges, but the civil lawsuit moved aggressively forward with 8 states behind it. The DOJ named 6 of the biggest landlords in America as co-conspirators in the complaint. The cartel finally had names: Greystar, Camden, LivCore, Willowbridge, Cushman, and Wakefield. These were the spokes on the wheel, named in federal court. Each of them fed private lease data into RealPage. Each followed its pricing recommendations, 90% of the time, every day. America's renters had absolutely no idea. They thought their landlord raised rent because the market demanded it. It didn't. The market wasn't setting your rent. A server farm in Texas was setting your rent every single morning. November 2025. The DOJ announces a settlement with RealPage. America exhales. Justice has finally arrived, right? Keep watching. No fines, no penalties, no admission of wrongdoing, no money returned to renters. RealPage paid absolutely nothing. The company that ran a 19 million unit algorithmic cartel walked completely free. No consequences, no accountability, nothing. The settlement says RealPage must stop using competitor data to set prices, going forward only, for 7 years maximum. 7 years of restrictions, not a single dollar in fines, not a single cent clawed back for overcharged renters. 4 state attorneys general formally objected to the deal in court. The settlement doesn't go far enough, they said. They were right. Meanwhile, RealPage quietly rebranded YieldStar as AI Revenue Management, same underlying code, fresh new name, still fully available. The DOJ settlement explicitly did not find algorithmic pricing inherently illegal. The door is wide open for the next cartel. Class action lawsuits from private renters are still active across the country. Total settlements so far exceed $200 million. $200 million. Divided across 19 million apartments, across a full decade. That works out to barely $10 per unit. Individual renters who were systematically overcharged for years are unlikely to see any meaningful compensation. The math simply doesn't reach them. And the landlords, the 6 named co-conspirators in the federal complaint, several settled quietly, with no admission of wrongdoing whatsoever. Greystar settled, terms completely undisclosed. Camden initially vowed to fight vigorously. The cartel is dissolving quietly, with zero real consequence. RealPage was acquired by private equity firm Thoma Bravo back in 2021 for $10.2 billion. They timed it perfectly. Thoma Bravo also owns or has owned major cybersecurity firms, financial software companies, and data platforms operating across America today. The people who profited most from your rent hike, they cashed out years ago, took the $10 billion and walked away clean. The cities hit the absolute hardest: the Sun Belt, Phoenix, Tucson, Atlanta, Austin, Nashville, Charlotte, your city, probably on this list. Young Americans priced out of homes in those cities during those exact years may genuinely never financially recover or catch up. The algorithmic cartel didn't just raise your monthly rent, it pushed homeownership permanently further away for an entire American generation. And nobody went to prison, nobody paid meaningful restitution. The algorithm just got a rebrand and kept running under a new name. Here is what this means for you specifically right now. If you rented between 2016 and 2024 inches, any major US city, there is a very real chance your rent was set, at least partially, by this algorithm, not your landlord. The machine decided. The class action lawsuits are still ongoing across multiple states. Some renters may still qualify for settlement pools. Search your specific city now. But the structural problem isn't solved at all. Algorithmic pricing tools remain completely legal. They are still actively being sold today. RealPage's core software was not found inherently illegal. Only the data sharing component was restricted. The pricing engine itself still runs freely. Other companies have already built nearly identical tools: Yardi, RentLogic, CoStar. The technology did not die with the RealPage settlement. San Francisco banned algorithmic rent pricing outright. Philadelphia banned it too. New Jersey is actively considering it. Most American states have not moved. The housing affordability crisis you are living inside right now, it didn't happen purely because of supply and demand economics. It happened because a software company methodically convinced 31,000 landlords to stop competing with each other and start silently coordinating instead. It happened because private equity bought the algorithm at peak value, scaled it aggressively across America, and called the whole thing innovation. It happened because the regulators, who had the power to stop it early, moved too slowly, and then settled too cheaply. The villain kept the money. You were never actually negotiating with your landlord. You were negotiating with an algorithm that was specifically engineered to never lose, ever. The rent you couldn't afford, the city you were eventually forced to leave, the roommate situation you couldn't outgrow, this is the reason why. RealPage, 31,000 landlords, 19 million units, a full decade of coordinated algorithmic rent extraction, and 0 prison time for anyone involved. The algorithm is still running somewhere right now, just operating under a different name, and at this very moment, your next lease renewal is already being calculated.